Hey folks, and welcome back to Center Freaks. We are at episode 3. Today we are going to focus the entire episode on the upcoming Wireless LAN Professionals Conference that's taking place very shortly in Phoenix. I guess it's actually in Tempe, but we're all flying into Phoenix, so it's close enough. So basically the whole show today is going to be about tips and tricks that Sam and I may know. We're also going to highlight some blog posts from Jake Snyder that really provided a lot of information. And at the end of this, we hope that, number one, that you'll feel those of you that are going to WLPC will be prepared, and those who are considering going to WLPC 1 year will be ready to make the business case and ensure that you're there next year. So, Sam, why don't you kick us off?
Hey, so hi everybody. This is Sam Clements, co-host to the Center Freaks show, and as JD said, we are talking about WLPC. And so obviously this year's the dates for this year's WLPC, I think is probably a good place to start. Is it's February 6th, February, I think technically 15th is when boot camp registration opens, but the main event is the 16th through the 18th for the boot camps, and the main conference is the 19th through the 21st. And I think that the fact that it's a two-part conference, potentially two-part conference, is a really, really interesting thing that Keith does. Keith being the organizer of WLPC, but what he does is he takes the main conference being Tuesday through Thursday, and then what he did was he tacked 3 days before that to set up a bunch of boot camps. And boot camps are essentially 3-day intensive topic driven sessions for whatever. I think JD, you're doing the CWSP boot camp. I'm going to be taking a boot camp for Python, because apparently those are skills that people need to know. And there's a whole slew of boot camps prior to the main event. In fact, do you have that list handy of what all the boot camps are by any chance?
Yeah, so there's actually quite a few boot camps that are running. I believe I mentioned last episode, but previously I've taken CWAP, which is running again this year, as well as the ECHO ECSE. Both of those are excellent sessions. You mentioned you're in the Python for WLAN Pros, which I'm sure is going to be a really great session. There's also an advanced ECHO session. Wireless pen testing, hacking, and defense using Kali Linux boot camp, which will be that'll be a really fun one. We've got a 3D printing for WLAN Pros. I believe you took that last year. Is that correct?
I did. Still have my printer, and I use it quite regularly. Yeah.
Okay. So you got that. The CWSP, which is what I'm taking this year, and I'm really excited about. The Certified Wireless Network Administrator, CWNA. And then there's 2 Cisco boot camps, which is really interesting for those of you who haven't attended before. What's interesting about those is the fact that it actually, if you take one of those boot camps, you can actually use Cisco learning credits for, my understanding is, both the boot camp and the conference. So you can actually pay for the event with Cisco learning credits. So those 2 classes are Ysecure and Yfund. So there's quite a few boot camps, and I believe I saw somewhere where I believe is it 30%? Is that the correct number, Sam, of WLPC attendees are actually attending a boot camp?
That sounds about right to me. I saw there was some really interesting stats that Keith posted about first-time attendees and number of people who are doing the entire boot camp in front of the conference and all of that. And I guess the upshot of that is that if you're attending the regular conference and showing up on what the main conference starts on the 19th. So if you come in Monday night and you see a bunch of people hanging out, there's going to be a whole ton of people that have been there for 3 days and have already had their brains melted, so to speak. So it's an intensive week, especially if you're doing the entire thing. And I think it's a fantastic week out of the field to go get some learning. I think that's and that's of course what it's all about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is worth mentioning that these boot camps are they're already normally a 4 and sometimes 5 day boot camp. Generally it's 4-day or maybe 4.5-day. And now we're squeezing that content. So it's already a lot of concentrated content, and we're squeezing that down into 3 days. So it's definitely one of those that will tax your brain a little bit. You'll kind of leave that, knowing that the content incredibly well, but also in need of some refreshments and something non-class related. And It's always interesting. I remember the first year I attended WLPC was also the first year that they. I know they did boot camps that year. I should put it that way. And coming in and seeing the people who had been in boot camps, I'm coming in fresh and excited, and seeing them kind of already
looking a little haggard.
Yeah, a little tired. I'm like, wow, what did I miss? But again, this is my third time I'm doing a boot camp before the conference, and it's really is just a great use of resources, kind of getting it all done at one time.
So if you were not going to take the CWSP class, which would you take instead?
I would have been in the same class you are, the Python for WLAN Pros. Yeah, that's one that's had me excited. I was really kind of hoping that Jake and Ryan were going to do a deep dive session this year, but they did not do that. Last year, I believe they did both, and I honestly don't know how a person would do two, both a boot camp and a deep dive, because it's just so much. It's going to be so taxing on them. But looking forward to hearing what comes out of that. I have a ton of respect for both of those guys, so I know that you're going to have a great class.
Yeah, for sure, and obviously Jake and Ryan teaching that, obviously fantastic instructors. I'm very, very much looking forward to that.
Yep. So past the boot camps, once the actual conference gets started, there's quite a bit to talk about there as well. Let's we mentioned deep dives. What deep dive are you going into?
So the deep dives are right. They're like you wouldn't call them mini boot camps, but they're essentially hyper focused, topic driven sessions where the conference sort of stops and everybody goes out into their deep dives. And I think they're doing deep dives on what is it, days 1 and 2, so the main conference is February 19th through the 21st. And so deep dive part 1 is on Tuesday, deep dive part 2 is on Wednesday. So they break them up, and you go to one deep dive for the 2 days. And I am doing the I don't remember. Oh, I do. It was Radio Hobbies for the Wi-Fi Professional, which is going to be done by Lee Badman and Scott Lester.
Yeah, that should be a great deep dive. Again, this was one of those that I seriously considered jumping into that deep dive. As a ham radio operator, so I'm a licensed ham radio operator. I've done a lot of playing in that area. I've got, we won't talk about how many different SDRs and other little devices. Somewhere there behind me, I've got a couple of I've got multiple ham radios, both HF and VHF, UHF, HTs. So this was definitely one of those that kind of resonated for me, and I came very close to taking that one. But aside from that, I didn't. What I know is that I also need to pick up a couple more skills, and 3D printing was one of those that I decided that whenever I registered for, decided that it would be a good opportunity to learn that. Having the printer to take away also was a huge benefit there. But there's a few others. There's portable Wi-Fi network analysis, which Scott McDermott and Jerry Ola are doing, and that goes back to what we were discussing in our last episode with the WLAN Pi. Yeah, the WLAN Pi, exactly. So that's going to be some great information. You come out with the WLAN Pi, and looking forward to seeing how they've further, extended the capabilities and kind of new tricks they've taught it, shall we say. There's spectrum analysis basics, and that comes with some good tools to use. wireless pen testing and hacking.
Well, so spectrum analysis basics is taught by Trent, it looks like, on the website. Obviously, if you can get into a class with Trent, very, very good. And then who is doing the wireless pen testing and defense?
Phil Morgan is the instructor there.
Phil Morgan. Oh, very good. Very good.
Yeah. So yeah, that should be a really interesting deep dive. And from there, we've got a point-to-multipoint link deep dive being taught by Jason
Intersteiner.
Yes,
Intersteiner?
thank you.
Yeah, yes.
I'm always the one that's going to screw up the names, and you're the one that's always going to fix it. So I'm just going to let you say them from now on. So that'll be an interesting one for those that have chosen to take it. I do a lot of that in my day-to-day role, so it was pretty easy for me to pass on that one, only because, again, I do it so often. Mm-hmm. What about you, Sam? Do you often use that type of information?
Point to multi-point things along those lines. Yeah, enough that it was certainly on my radar as something that I wanted to take. But point to points are something that unless you're doing a lot of them, it's really the one or two a year type of thing where the technology doesn't change a whole lot, and really it's probably more about alignment and protocols. And at that point, you're, do I bridge, do I route? There's more to it than just the Wi-Fi piece of it, obviously.
Yes.
And so, there is some,
and that kind of varies based on what tool set you're using too, right? Are you using something from Cisco, or are you using from Aruba? Aruba's now got is it the 381, the
60
AD?
gigahertz bad boy.
Yeah, exactly. That thing looks awesome. I want to play with that. But so a lot of that's also technology dependent, right? As far as how you go about it.
For sure.
And then Mr. Boardman, Mr. CWNE300 is teaching the 3D printing class that I mentioned. And then the final one is APIs by example, Mr. Mike Albano, who's teaching that. And that was, that one really called my name as well, going back to, the development and how do we write in Python for our day-to-day jobs. And
that was the one that stood out as being the one. If I wasn't going to do the radio hobbies one, it was going to be the APIs by example. I mean, it says, right in the description, Python will be used. The philosophy of community-driven open API standards, using Yang modeling, gRPC, GNMI. So I think there's a lot of great overlap there, especially with the Python boot camp that was going to be that I'm going to be taking earlier in the week. So I would have done that one if the radio hobbies one just didn't look so incredibly awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I firmly agree with you there. All right, so those are the boot camps. There's a lot being covered there. Do you have any, based on previous years of experience, Sam, do you have any hints for people who've never attended WLPC as far as the boot camps themselves are concerned?
As far as the boot camps themselves are concerned, is be prepared to do. If you're going to take a boot camp and you've not been to one before, be prepared because I think a lot of them will actually have after hours work that you're going to need to be focusing on. While it's not terribly cumbersome, usually like homework type of stuff, there is usually some things that you're going to have to take away, and there are some things you're going to need to be working on in the evening. I've only done one boot camp before in the past, and that was a 3D printing one. And there was, we had to go back and check on some print jobs and had to work on some modeling and some creation of some designs and that. And I expect the Python one is going to be, some skills reinforcement and the like. But from a boot camp's perspective, just be aware that your evenings on Saturday and Sunday evening are probably not going to be 100% free. Obviously, there's a tremendous social aspect to WLPC, and just understand that everybody who's going to be at WLPC Saturday and for the boot camps, Saturday night and Sunday night, they're all they are all 100% there to do boot camps, and everybody there is probably going to have some after hour stuff they're going to need to be working on. So don't keep everybody out too terribly late on Saturday night and Sunday night.
I think those are great points, and understanding that just even if you happen to be in a boot camp that is getting out on time every break you get, you're getting out a little early for lunch and maybe even getting out at the end of the day, even if you just happen to have found that particular boot camp, a lot of those boot camps are running right up to break and maybe even a little past break. They're running right up to lunch and maybe even a little past. And so as you're moving around in the hallways, between sessions, try to keep that in mind. And then, as you said, of course, if someone is, into the day, if they're looking toasted, if they're exhausted, it's probably not the time to try to convince them to go have drinks for the next 4 hours. That person can probably use the rest that they're going to get. That's probably my biggest hint is make certain that you get rest. Before the first day, right? You're going to be excited to see people. You're going to be excited to meet everyone. And the event itself is so much fun. And there's so much energy, especially on that first day, right? When everyone's getting there, that oftentimes it's difficult to tear yourself away. But I would highly recommend, making certain you do that. You're likely going to be dealing with a little bit of jet lag or at least the offset in hours. So make certain that you've prepared yourself for that first day, because again, these classes really come at you really fast.
Yeah, for sure, and that's and that's just the beginning half of the conference.
Okay, Sam. So, what about deep dives? Do you have any hints for people surrounding the deep dives?
No. Okay.
That's a completely acceptable answer.
That's done. No, the deep dives are interesting because it's you pick a topic and. The thing that I didn't realize the first WLPC I went to was that even despite the fact it was spelled out in the schedule, is that the deep dives are done in two parts, some part on day one, some part on day two. And so you're going to go into your first deep dive, sort of afternoon of Tuesday, which is the first day of the official conference. And you're going to get, some exposure to what you're doing, and you're going to get a couple of hours to go, build and play and tweak and tune. And then you're going to go back to the conference the following morning, and you're going to be drinking from the fire hose during the conference again, and then you're going to come back to your deep dive again. And so it's sort of that secondary reinforcement the following day of whatever your topic is. I don't recall the deep dives, at least the deep dives I've been to, having any homework per se, and so they were obviously more lightweight than what a boot camp would be. Just be aware that that's sort of where the main thrust of the focus is beyond the actual main sessions are concerned, and that is that I think that Keith did several years back, he did, everybody got a Node-ROID or whatever it was in the conference. Typically there's like one big conference giveaway that goes into your goodie bag, and what Keith has done is, instead of giving everybody the exact same thing, he has said, okay, we're going to break it up, and your big thing that you're going to get is whatever the thing is that you're focusing on in your deep dive. And so that's the intriguing part to me, is that, for example, the 3D printing deep dive comes with a 3D printer. The pen testing deep dive comes with a tablet or a laptop or a Chromebook or something like that. Yeah. So that's going to be really where your main conference goodie is. And it's neat because A, you get to pick something that is very, very interesting to you, but B, these aren't little little giveaways. These aren't like hey, you're going to get a USB flash drive and a battery. These are meaty things that you're going to take home, so that when you get done with your deep dive, you're gonna know something, and you're gonna have something to take back and something to work on. And that's, I think, really probably the biggest suggestion that I would have is that don't treat the deep dives as as a boot camp. The deep dives are going to be an enabling couple of afternoons. and expect that when you get back home, you're going to have this thing that you're going to want to go practice on. You're going to want to go take for a spin. You're going to want to use over and over again. Don't go into a deep dive thinking that you're going to come out being an expert. Go into a deep dive knowing that you're going to have a hit list of things that when you get home, you're going to need to be focusing on. And be prepared as you're going through that content that it's not going to be multiple days of an intensive thing. It's going to be hey, this thing on this topic interests me, and therefore I need to bend the instructor's ear and say, hey, what do I need to focus on in order to fill in the blanks that I've got here? And go home knowing that that's going to be something that you're going to focus on.
I think those are really great points. Deep dive, I think, can almost sell it for more than it is. And I think it's almost, instead of a deep dive, it's almost a taster, right? Kind of reinforcing your point. What they're going to do is they're going to give you exactly what you need to get up and get going, and some use cases. But yeah, you absolutely said it. Don't come out expecting to be an expert. One thing I'll say, I saw this a lot last year. Generally, all of the instructors, and one of the things Keith does is he works really hard or really strongly with all of the instructors to ensure that they have the content and what's needed, so that you're going to have a packet of information, right? And it's going to have a lot of the step-by-step stuff that you're going through. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I saw last year was people were kind of having a hard time keeping up, maybe. And rather than referring to the documentation that's in front of them, they start asking the people that are around them on either side. And then this mini discussion starts up. And then they're forgetting the fact that, there's 6 rows of people behind them that are all trying to listen past them and try to understand what's happening. And suddenly there's this flurry of movement and conversation that's taking place. And sometimes, especially if it's a really popular topic, it's really easy for that to run away quickly, right? Mm-hmm. So I would strongly suggest, refer to that documentation that you're going to be given as much as possible. Do ensure that when you sit down, you're ready to participate, that you're not also trying to work on something at work. If you are, it's really best probably just to not even sit in there until you're ready to pay attention. So ensure that you get in there on time, ensure that you've got what you need, you're ready to go with it, because it is 2 very short windows, ultimately, when you consider the amount of information that they're going to be presenting to you. So I think that's a lot of it. I think if everyone does that, that will kind of help everyone get as much as they can out of those deep dive sessions.
So deep dives and boot camps aside, right? The main thrust of the conference is, of course, the main global sessions, if you will. I think if you're familiar with other conferences, it's the big room where everybody gets together, and the main conference is stage and audience and people lecturing and saying, here's what it is we're talking about, right? So what are your thoughts on the actual conference itself?
Well, I'm really excited. I feel like we've got a great group of speakers. Myself, excluded from that, but in general, I feel like we've got some. More importantly, it's the topics that I'm excited about. So we're going to have 3 different lengths of sessions: the 55-minute sessions, the 30-minute sessions, and then the 10 talks. You and I both have 10 talks. It's very short, very fast. It's a little bit of drinking from fire hose, but it's also, I end up finding myself writing down a bunch of notes, and then a week or maybe 2 weeks after I get back from WLPC, I find myself going back through those notes going, oh yeah, I want to look at X, and I will, want to start reading about, this particular thing that so-and-so talked about. And the sessions are all available, so you can go back and look. But it's those pointers of where can I learn more, right? But if we start at the 55-minute sessions, there's only 3 of them. I think Keith knows his audience well. He knows that most of us have a hard time concentrating on one thing for much longer than that. There's none of these 90-minute or 2-hour sessions. And the 3 topics, Perry is going to be talking about understanding 802.11 KVR. which is, something that we all, any of us that deal with, high capacity networks or even most enterprises at this point, roaming is a really common discussion, right? So that's going to be interesting. Chuck is, again, referring back to the last, or I guess episode 1, rather, not the last one, but episode 1, Chuck is talking about opening up the 6 gigahertz band, and I'm going to reiterate, make certain you're paying attention for that one. And then Hemant is talking about WPA3, OWE, and DPP. So these are all top of mind sessions. These are things that we're talking about as a wireless industry a lot. And so those are big hitters and will definitely be good information. And then from there, we have the 30-minute sessions. And then of course the 10 talks. So there's only, so I noticed there's only 10 30-minute sessions. And then seems to be a really, real focus on the 10 talks and the amount of information you can get out of those.
Well, the interesting thing about the 10 talks is those come from, I think, the TED concept, where you have a short window of time to communicate some pretty specific topics. And I think that the neat thing about the 10 talks being all clumped together is that if you find yourself being bored by a topic, just wait. Yeah, we can all wait 5-10 minutes or so. Give a speaker 5 minutes or so, and if it doesn't strike your fancy, wait another 5 minutes, and somebody else is going to be talking about something else. So they're very, very rapid fire, and I think that there's going to be good ones, there's going to be bad ones. I'm sure there's going to be ones that interest everybody and ones that don't interest everybody. How's that? It's better than good, bad. And so if you find yourself bored or otherwise distracted, put your head down, answer a couple emails, whatever, but don't expect to be distracted for too long, because there's invariably going to be somebody that comes up next that's going to want to talk about something that's near and dear to your heart.
So let me ask you this, Sam: are there any sessions that really jump out to you? Any ones that any of them that really kind of get your mental juices flowing?
There's this one called "It Depends" that I'm really interested to listen to. That I hope somebody is going to have some good content for. Now, the interesting thing about WLPC is that like the long sessions that you said, all of those are very, very topical, and I think that they're certainly near and dear to my heart, and obviously very forward-looking, especially the 6 gigahertz one. But I think that that's really where we talk about setting the pace for 2019 and into the things that are going to be interesting for 2020. Is that you get a chance to listen to these folks and listen to them expound on what they think the future is going to bring. And 9 times out of 10, it's spot on. And so this is your chance to go listen to the professionals talk about the things that are important to them. And I think I'm really excited about the long sessions, just because I think the topics are so very, very spot on. And then I don't think I even looked at the list of all the shorter sessions. So it's going to be Jerry, Yer Yang, UC, Bob Friday, Dave Coleman, Adrian, Panos, Eddie, Brian Long, Dennis Burrell, and all of those are just some fantastic speakers. And there are, I don't know that I look at any of these topics and say, gosh, these are boring topics, not by any stretch. Really interested to see what Dennis from Ventive says about Antenna University. I always like the deep dives from an electrical perspective, and so I think I'm really excited about that. And then obviously, a bunch of that stuff is going to be fill in the blanks for a lot of folks. I think we've got some stuff from Ekahau in there. We've got some stuff from Bob Friday. I think all these are obviously really, really big names in the industry. And so sometimes I just sort of disregard the topic, knowing that whomever it is gonna, I just trust that they're just gonna say something that I'm gonna get something out of. And,
right.
And I don't go to conferences to sit and take copious notes and do whatever. What I go to conferences for is to find the nugget of information that I didn't know before.
Right.
And it's the always continue to keep learning, and you're going to have exposure to a broad skill sets from a speaker's perspective or from an attendee's perspective, and that, you know, try and focus when everybody's saying something or when you're listening to a session. Maybe try and listen for that one thing that maybe you didn't know and write that down, or maybe that one little bit of information, like you said, where you're going to go back in a couple of weeks and go, oh, you know what, I did hear something about that. I need to go rewatch the session, or you know, do a search and see if I can find a white paper on fill in the blank. Those 30-minute sessions I think are really, really good for that, because they're long enough that you can get entrenched into a topic, but they're not too long that if it's over your head, or if it's a topic that you're already familiar with, that you're going to, you know, sit and be bored for a long time.
Right. Yeah, I like the focus that they kind of provide. Looking at, well, you know, Coleman's is a great example. OFDMA, the meat and potatoes of 802.11ax. So he's not talking about the AX protocol, you know, soup to nuts. He is focusing down only on OFDMA, and it kind of allows you to go very deep on that one tiny little section of AX, but it's an important, you know, part of AX. So I kind of like how the 30 minutes allows them to go deep, but it's deep on a very specific subject in general, right?
For sure.
Yeah. I think, and the other thing I would kind of caution people maybe on is sometimes you'll sit down or sometimes you'll look at the schedule. You know, you're looking ahead of the schedule and you go, okay, you know, I'm bored, or that last session wasn't very good. You know, I think I'm just going to get up and, you know, go out in the lobby and walk around.
Don't do that.
Right. Yeah. Because generally that's when the session, you know, that's when the session takes place, and everyone comes out and goes, oh my gosh, I can't believe, you know, and you're like, what did I just miss? Like, you know, there wasn't anything interesting. Why, you know, I'll say there's been a few times, at WLPC when I look at the topic, and I go, okay, this will be all right. And then 10 minutes or 30 minutes later, I'm going,
totally underestimated that.
Yeah, I did not see that coming. So that's definitely things, you know, one of those things I would caution everyone is go into each one with an open mind. Like, even if, you know what, you look down at your email because this one, you know, a particular session has lost you, you're not interested. Make certain that at the end, that when that session transitions to the next one, that you're there and you're back and you're prepared for whatever comes next. I think that's a really important point for people.
Well, don't forget that Keith is pretty nefarious about that as well. He loves to do these giveaways, and he'll do giveaways just like right in between two sessions, and you must be present to win type of thing. And he's got one basket with everybody's name in it, and if you're not there for your drawing, your name just goes away, and you're not eligible for winning anything else. And so like if you want stuff, like, and it's these aren't like little like flash drives and batteries, right? These tend to be really, really nice giveaways. You want to be there for those, and you want to make sure that you stay within earshot of the mic. That's for damn sure.
Well, I'll tell another. I'm sure the viewers have already figured out that I don't mind telling ridiculous stories about myself, and I'll tell another one of those. Not last year, but the year before, 2 years ago, I went to lunch with a few people, and literally we were kind of careful to ensure that we weren't, you know, that lunch wasn't taking too long. But literally, as we're pulling back into the parking lot, my phone starts blowing up because people are tagging me on Twitter and going, your name was just called. You missed a drone. And so if we had been back like 10 minutes sooner, I mean, really, like, and when I say my phone's blowing up as we're pulling in, like literally we are in the parking lot and my phone starts blowing up. So really 3 minutes earlier, and I would have heard my name called and would have gotten a drone. And I still don't have a drone. So don't make my mistake.
Yeah, that's rough too, because you know, there's a lot of people know a lot of people there, and they're going to call you out if you're not there and you miss something.
Oh, there was lots of harassment, you know, for the rest of the day over that. And it's also that the fact that you're out, right? Your name gets tossed on the floor.
You're done.
You're done. You're not getting, you know, there's no chance. There's not another chance after that. So make certain you're in there on time. All right. So after the sessions, after you've gotten up early, you're well rested because you certainly didn't go out the night before. Because,
Certainly not.
Absolutely not. You were in bed early. You're not jet lagged at all. You've had enough coffee throughout the day. You have absorbed everything and attended all the sessions, and maybe, just maybe, got lucky enough to have your name called and actually be in the room and won that drone. And now the end of the day has come, and it's time for dinner. It's time for drinks. What happens during that time, Sam?
Yeah, that's a good question. This has evolved over the past couple of years, and huge shout out to Keith for allowing the community to sort of fill in some of those gaps. In that the I don't know if it's officially coined WLPC After Dark or not, but there tends to be some after hours semi-official events, if you will, and I think the first evening, which I think is Tuesday evening. Keith has set aside an area for two things to occur. The first is he's brought a huge Lego kit that he's going to allow people to build, and it's one of those big, I think, multi component Lego kits. And so if you're a Legos fan and you like the community aspect of it and you want to come work on a big Lego kit, I think he's actually going to give it away to one of the people that helped build it. So that's interesting. And then at the same time, he's going to allow Joel and I on a Tuesday evening to do a retro gaming event. And Joel and I have sort of knocked this together last year, where we found out we shared a similar hobby in 8-bit video gaming and the like. And so this year he's going to I'm going to bring an original NES. Joel's going to bring some original Game Boys. Keith's got a bunch of the mini NES and mini SNESs. I'm going to hook them up to TVs, and we're just going to have some gaming consoles that, if you grew up in the 80s or so and you were familiar with those games, you can just come and hang out and play some games and chat and have fun. So I think, the first night I think is going to be probably pretty straightforward between, Joel and I doing retro gaming, and it sounds like they're going to be doing Lego building either in the same room or on the other side of the main stage there, and just generally get together and hang out and have fun. So I think that'll be really good for the first evening, and then there's Wednesday night, which I have to apologize for in advance, because Ryan Adzema and I are going to get together and have some whiskey, and we're going to do a recording of Whiskey and Wi-Fi, and so that's going to be the come consume alcohol and talk about Wi-Fi show. So it's always awful. It's terribly not entertaining, and we'll have some booze to come drink. So,
so if you show up for no other reason, come for the alcohol.
Come for the alcohol. Yeah, exactly.
But I would say, as someone who's sat in on a couple of those, it's also incredibly informative sometimes, and it's also one of those times where you go, to drunk as much as that person is drunk and still be that on it. I'm just a little jealous. So I got a couple of really smart people leading that, and you guys always pull smart people from the crowd, which is the reason I've never sat in the hot seat.
See, you're going to be first up this time, or last up this time, even more difficult.
Yeah, no, but it's also worth attending. One of, if you don't already know about Whiskey and Wi-Fi, which I'm pretty certain everyone knows about Whiskey and Wi-Fi, you should probably go back and prepare yourself by maybe listening to some of those earlier shows. But that'll be a great experience. What else is going on?
Well, and don't forget about Whiskey and Wi-Fi. Even if you don't drink, you're certainly welcome to come mock all the people that are drinking. So don't feel excluded because you happen to not partake. There are plenty of people there who don't drink. So don't.
That's a great point. It's a great opportunity to pull out the phone and record evidence for later.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean,
that's it. And I don't know that there's a whole lot. I think that really sums up a lot of WLPC. Other than the fact that you're going to be at a conference with a whole bunch of people who love to be on social media. There's, I think that's the way Keith advertises it. He doesn't do email blasts to people. If you follow somebody on Twitter and they're there and you've not met them, walk up to them and say hi. be social, which is really, really hard for us in technology to do. A lot of us are introverts, and Lord knows I'm one of those. But we're all introverts together, and so if you find yourself just hanging out, not without anybody, everybody at the hotel is going to be at the conference. Walk up to somebody and say hi, or find somebody on Twitter or tweet using the WLPC hashtag and say, hey, who's doing what right now? Is there a place we're all getting together or something along those lines? Oh, I just made my phone angry. Get to meet some people and get to meet some friends, and don't just clump together with the people that you hung out with last night because they seem like a nice bunch. Go meet a bunch of people. Get together and mix it up some, and get to know the people that you follow on Twitter. Get to know them on a personal level, because most people's online persona is not like their real in-person persona. And if you find somebody that you like on Twitter, go meet them in person, and maybe you won't like them in person. If you find somebody you don't like on Twitter, go meet them in person, and maybe you will like them in person. There's all sorts of wonderful interpersonal dynamics, and I would encourage you to go and just hang out with people, be social, engage with people.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's my favorite aspect of conferences. The social aspect is the number one reason why I go. I learn a lot, from being at the conference, but it's interacting with all the other people, and that kind of leads me to maybe my key point, my key prep point that I'd like to give you all. It's the same one that I give every year at Cisco Live. I participate in the first time attendee orientation, and I always give the exact same tip. And that's leave your ego at home. Mm-hmm. So before you get on the flight, before you travel to Phoenix, go ahead and check that ego away. And so that really allows us, right? And when I say us, I mean us as individuals. When we check our ego, it allows us to be, number one, completely trainable, right? Even if we go into a session and we think, I already know all there is to know about this particular topic, it ensures that because we've kept our ego in check when we're there and we're paying attention and we're listening, that we might actually learn that we don't know everything, right? So there's that aspect. But also from the social aspect, it means that we always remember that there are people there who are smarter than us and will know more than us about, topic X, right? And there are also people there who have never even heard of topic X and need to know more and want to know more to advance their career. And what that really does is it kind of acts as, the social lubricant. It ensures that conversations don't become a contest. But it also, again, by keeping our own ego in check, it makes certain that we're getting the most out of it as individuals. So it's keep your ego in check for other people, but also keep it in check for yourself. You'll have a better time, at the conference. Going back to something Sam said earlier, make certain you come see Sam and I, because we have stickers. We have nice little round sticker, and then this is a vinyl transfer. So we will have these at least until we run out. So if you're asking us on the very last day and we say, I'm sorry, I don't have any, it's not because we don't like you. We've probably ran out. So we will have those stickers. We might even have some other stickers and whatnot. So there will definitely be a lot of podcasts and things. A lot of organizations will have some swag to give away. So be on the lookout for some of that, and definitely come say hello to Sam, both from Center Freaks and Whiskey and Wi-Fi and all of the other many places that he does, and then you can say hello to me because I have stickers. So. All right. So one last thing before we leave, there's a great blog that was put out by Jake Snyder over at 2DS from DS. Jake can be found on Twitter at JSnyder. And it's basically the title of it is WLPC Info for Newcomers and Old Timers. And it's also a great blog post, and it's definitely worth reading. It covers some of the things that Sam and I've highlighted, but it also has some other things along the lines of, for example, I just realized, I was just looking at it and realized that there's a run club that's taking place. And then there are also one of the other things that Sam and I haven't covered that you can learn more about there is there are vendor sessions in the evening as well. So after the conference is done for the day, there's some vendor sessions. So lots to check out there. I will put a link in the show notes, and I'll make certain that we've got it on screen for you guys to easily be able to find it. And we appreciate Jake putting that out. There's a lot of great content there. Aside from that, I believe that wraps up this show. So we are coming to the end of episode number 3. Don't forget, we still have giveaways to consider. And so make certain that you're following us and doing everything we need, or everything you need to be entered for those. And aside from that, we are looking forward to seeing those that are coming to WLPC. We're all excited to be there. So, Sam, any last words?
Looking forward to seeing everybody in a couple of weeks.
All right. You guys have be safe traveling, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.